I just want to talk about making the downward dog, where you can make downward dog more comfortable for people, because it's a useful posture that you can use with beginners. But the issue you're going to find, the main issue you're going to find from a teaching perspective, is people are just going to be really uncomfortable. You'll see them kind of shuffling or having to come out of the posture. So to counteract that, what you can do is you can use a folded up blanket as a kind of saddle over the swing. So you give people a little bit of cushioning. So just put that straight over, like a saddle, and then you do exactly the same setup. So you walk forwards into it, come into a forward bend, let your body weight trap the swing in place, and then you can walk back into your downward facing dog, but you've got more padding, so it's easier for people to hold those postures or do more of the postures in the sequence that we just showed you. So I think it's important. Most yoga studios have blankets nearby, and it's something that you could use quite sort of profitably in your classes. One word of warning though, I think when you've got a blanket on and you're doing more upper body stuff, so when you lift the legs up like that, I think there's more danger that you can slide off the swing if you're using a blanket. So you have to be so careful with something like this we showed you. If you were to lift the legs too much, then you might end up sliding down like I just did. So be careful with that. Don't have the legs too high. So that's just a safety, a comfort issue. If you've got people in a comfortable version, if the swing's not too high for them, so the swing again, it shouldn't be up so that it's pushing against the abdomen. If it's pushing into the abdomen or the bladder, it's going to be super uncomfortable. It needs to be this kind of top of the thigh, mid-thigh area. Provided you've got it in a comfortable level for people, then it's a good sequence for beginners. I think beginners can try that. It's not too technical. As long as they're comfortable, then it's not such a technical sequence. All the forward bends are fairly easy to do because you're just literally hanging over the swing a lot, and there's not a lot else for you to do. So it's a good sequence for beginners. I would put that sequence as potentially a secondary warm-up sequence. So I might do something a bit easier, something inside the swing, for example, and then I might come and use the downward dog sequence as like a secondary level of warm-ups. That's one way that I might use that, or I might do downward dog as a standalone posture sometimes with people. It's also worth remembering that this is a way you can introduce people to inversions. So when you're doing a downward dog, you've already got the person in an inverted position. So it can be a way of preparing people for an inversion before they do the full inversion. So that's why I would sometimes use it as a secondary warm-up sequence, because then I would go on to the full inversion after we'd already tried a partial inversion. So that's one way of using it. I think it has value as a sequence because it's a lot of stuff that people are familiar with doing. So a lot of it is just forward bends, but then you add a little kind of swing twist to it. So you've got the mobilizations, the wrist stretches, the movements that you can do because you're partially supported. So I think people quite enjoy that sequence. Again, I would just say a word of caution about the upper body stuff. I think it usually the alignment looks really bad for people when they're doing upper body stuff from downward dog. So I would sooner do upper body stuff when I've got both feet down. So I've got the base of both of my legs, and I can do lots of upper body stuff from there. Or I can do upper body stuff when I'm completely suspended in the swing, when I'm hanging upside down. I can use the handles and do different upper body stuff from there, which we will show you in the upper body section. So I would just say a word of caution around upper body from downward dog. It might be tempting, but often it just looks a bit of a mess to me in my experience of watching people do it. So that will be the downward dog material from the level 2